I think about my life before I became a mother and before I became a homemaker, and I had all the time in the world, and I didn't use it wisely. I wasn't efficient with my time. And so I think recognizing that we are limited beings, and actually using the limitations to our advantage in many ways.
Hello, and welcome to the Simply Convivial podcast. Convivial means enjoying life together, and that's the hospitable atmosphere that we want to create in our homes. I'm Mystie Winckler, homemaker, homeschool mom, and grandma who has tried just about every planner out there, it feels like. And I want to help you become a competent, cheerful, equipped Christian homemaker. And one way that we go about that is by having a working planner. And today I'm joined by Rachael Elia. She is a bilingual, crunchy, born again Christian, a wife, and mom of 3 little ones. She lives with her family in an old classic Mexican hacienda on a ranch in west central Mexico. She is a voracious reader and lifelong learner, passionate about all things hearth, earth, birth, family, faith, and health. She spends her days homemaking, homeschooling, writing, gardening, exploring the land with her family, making herbal remedies, and serving in ministry to women and children. So thank you for joining me, Rachael.
It is a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So I would love to hear, with all of those different plates and interests and hobbies and responsibilities that you have going on, how do you use a planner to help you keep track of stuff? But then also, um, how does the planner then kind of make that possible?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think what's really helpful to keep in mind is that our planners are a tool, right? Like they're not set in stone. I know you and I had planned to have this podcast interview a couple weeks ago, and the internet went out. And so, just like life,
Yeah.
you adapt, to whatever life and whatever timing that God might have that might be different than our own plan, right? So I think that having a planner is helpful insofar as it allows us to be good stewards of
Mhm.
our time, of our energy. I think about my life before I became a mother and before I became a homemaker, and I had all the time in the world, and I didn't use it wisely. I wasn't efficient with my time. And so I think recognizing that we are limited beings, and actually using the limitations to our advantage in many ways, right? Like recognizing that, okay, well, I only have a certain amount of time or energy to do certain tasks, can be really helpful to make our decision clear,
Yeah.
right? And then what's helpful for me in using a planner too is actually like bringing these maybe like abstract or maybe like even eternity sized values and visions and responsibilities and like translating them into the day to day moments, right? And um I think a lot about Luke 16:10, where Jesus tells us by being faithful in little, we'll be faithful in much, right? Like that is translated. And so for me, it is helpful to remember my vocations, which you talk about a lot, and recognize, okay, well, what is in this chapter, in this season of my life, what is, most pressing, what is most important, but also what are the values that I hold central in my life, right? Like if it's intimacy with the Lord, well, then in my planner, it means when I have scheduled in time with the Lord, right? If it's intimacy in my marriage, that means I have rhythms of connection that I actually have to schedule in and plan. Like it's not just going to happen, right? Randomly. If it's hospitality, right? It means that I have to build in moments to invite others into my home and to open up my home in ways that I have to kind of inconvenience myself to do, but I have to plan for that, right? If it's good stewardship of my body and my health and my children's health, for me, that is translated into daily movement and home cooked meals. And so those are things that I use my planner for to make, tangible these bigger callings and responsibilities. So that's a little bit about how I manage all of the, spinning plate and translate like what God has put in my heart and commanded me to do as a believer into my day-to-day life.
Yeah, I think we tend to think that some of those more relational things are better if they're spontaneous, but if they're important and valuable, then that does mean being intentional with making sure they happen. There's nothing fake about planning to have those times set aside for what's really important.
Yeah, absolutely. And, like allowing prayer to guide our decisions is really important, I think, and also leaving margin for the Lord to work in our lives, right? Like, I'm not gonna schedule every single minute of every single day expecting that that plan is gonna somehow unfold to my agenda, and my will. But I recognize that there is a partnership that I have with the Lord where he puts something on my heart or puts in my path something that I am meant to be doing. And I then have to then like take the baton and hold the responsibility of translating that into my life by directing my will in alignment with his, right?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's a dance, it's not that I'm, scheduling in every little, thing. But it's also like, okay, I recognize that there's going to be spontaneous moments or plans go awry or plans change, but I also have this like structure that creates a foundation for me to build my life upon. So that really is helpful for me.
Yeah. So what does your planner look like right now? Just kind of logistically or practically, how are you keeping track of those things?
So I brought it with me because I, through trial and error, have developed my own, dashboard page. It has the date, it has my top 3 for the week, it has my habit tracking, and then I have my top 3 for each day. I have my meals and my prep, for meals. I have my daily, which has my convivial circle, Post-it. I have my alignment focus here, and then I have an area for projects and notes and to do. So this is something that I keep, on hand throughout my day. It kind of follows me around. I think I need a new clipboard soon because this one's getting a little worn. But usually this clipboard, I'll have my general weekly review on one side, and then on the other side, I print my weekly review. So I have an area to mark my milestones and celebration, what's working, what did I steward well, what not working, what changes need to happen. I mark down how did I see God's presence moving in my life this week, and then also my prayers for the following week. And so for me, actually, the side is also really, really valuable and really important because I keep these as a reference, and every time I have my sort of interval week where I plan for the next 2 months, I do 2-month interval, where I have kind of an idea of, okay, these are my goals, these are the habits I'm working on this interval, this is what we're doing in our homeschool. I can actually go back into my weekly reviews and see, okay, what even happened, right? And for me, it's almost like an Ebenezer stone from the Old Testament. You have God's people setting up these sort of like stones of remembrance. And for me, that's really, really been helpful. I started implementing this probably about a year ago, and I have a stack of these in my sort of bigger binder where I have a lot of my other, planner kind of stuff and my home making binder, I call it. But for me, it's like, okay, every interval I go back and I see, what have I done? Where is God working in my life? What shifts need to happen? Like, what practically speaking needs to shift? Did I meet my goals? Did I meet my sort of bigger vision ideas of what I wanted to do those last 2 months? Um, are there areas where God is asking me to kind of step back a little bit more? Are there areas where God is asking me to lean in a little bit more? This review page that's right on the back of my, weekly planner, has been, yeah, super, super helpful for me and allows me to then, okay, at the end of the year, for instance, I have then 52 pages of these. I have one of these two that I have for my interval planner, right? That I can actually translate to, okay, well, if I have, then I don't have to go through all 52 of them, but I can go through all of my interval planning ones and say, okay, what did I do this year? Like what practically happened? Because it's easy to kind of get lost in the movement of life, the forward movement, the motion of the ocean, if you will, where we kind of like, can't see the trees from the forest. But having this allows me to see, oh, right, like God did answer my prayers. Or, I had this idea of how things were going to go, but God has a different plan. And so I can see how he's been guiding me. And as a homemaker, I think that recognizing that, you know, it it's like I can be responsive in a new and deeper way that allows me to um yeah, step into God's will in a more embodied way, I think.
I love that opportunity to really remember what you've done, where you've been, where you're going, because it is so easy when we just get in our head and say, "Oh, I'll just remember." We tend to remember only negative things. It's like I have a record of like, oh, things that I actually did. That's such a great way to move forward in gratitude.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, that negativity bias is real, and so carving in those times of recognizing the grace that's always present, the abundance that is always overflowing, I think is so, so valuable and allows me to continually center the Lord in my life, really. And I also have like honestly this I have like different phases too where I'm like, okay, how did I feel this week? Right? Huh. Is there a pattern? Like, can I be cognizant of the fact that like, oh, I have too much on my plate. So thus I feel, stressed out according to my planner, and according to my weekly review. Okay, well then how can I be responsive to that? I'm not trying to like perfectly curate my emotions, but it's recognizing that like, okay, God can meet me here too and show me how I can be responsible to what's happening in my life, how I'm feeling, what's going on in a way that in integrity, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. So, how long did it take you to put this together and kind of work it to the point where it is now? I think it's so tempting to say, "Oh, I want a planner like that that's built just for me," and think that, you can just open up our computer screen and just make it at one go.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this group may be a gift that God has given me in like creating designing things like this. But it's constantly in progress as well. For me at least, I recognize this is probably like my fourth or fifth iteration where I thought, oh, okay, like maybe I can add that or I'm not really using this part of it so much. But right now I'm really, really happy with the design that I have now. And it's serving me. I've had a couple people ask me like, where did you get that? So I'm thinking I've been like giving it to some of my close friends and allowing it to bless them in that way. But I think too, rather than seeing it as like something static that exists, that, like, you're never gonna change again or is always going to meet all of your needs,
Mhm.
um, is not realistic, and so we can recognize, like, okay, like, I can again, as I opened our call with, it's like, it's a tool, right? Like, how am I gonna engage with this tool in a way that can let me, that can meet me where I am and meet the needs that I have in this moment, right? And sometimes that is, like a planner we bought from the store, like that can work great. And maybe it's just a notebook. Maybe, maybe it's a little bit more complex in design, as I have created. But regardless, it's really less about how perfect your design is and is more about like, okay, am I consistently coming back to this? Am I engaging with it in a way that's serving me, that's allowing allowing me to love others well,
Mhm.
and to be of service in the way that God has asked you to.
Yeah. Well, that is one of the things I love about the clipboard planner is that you don't even have to open it up. Like, it's just right there in front of you. It makes it super easy to see it at a glance.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. And I just, I kind of keep it there on my command center, usually in my kitchen. And so I can just, see it really quickly. I've the last couple weeks I have a infant. She's like, well, she's more of a toddler now. She's a year and a half, but sometimes I will have let this out on the kitchen table and I come back and it's drawn all over. So I have to kind of it's what's beneath doodle, but yeah, I know I will look back on that as I do at the end of the year, and it'll warm my heart, as irritated as I might be in the moment of like, oh, what was that now? Why does it all crumbled out, no, it's very sweet.
Spending some time with your weekly review and then reviewing also that big picture is really essential and so helpful. That's why you don't want to miss any of the future episodes in this Organized October series. All next week, we're going to be talking about that interval option, looking at the bigger picture and in order to better inform that weekly and daily plan. And it also gives you a time to remember and move forward in gratitude, to remember what you have done and then to move forward in gratitude. So be sure you're signed up for the Organized October Challenge by going to simplyconvivial.com/October, simplyconvivial.com/October, and to subscribe to the channel, like this video so that YouTube will be sure that you don't miss our live on Monday all about interval planning, as well as the episodes all next week about reviewing and thinking about your big picture and bringing it home to your planner on a weekly and daily basis. And all of that is so you can repent, rejoice, repeat.